My name is Ava Morgan, and this morning, as I stood barefoot on the warm marble floor of my new mansion, I realized something almost poetic. The master suite I sleep in now is bigger than the entire house I grew up in. Bigger than the house where I was once told I didn't belong. Bigger than the room I was kicked out of, my own room. Sunlight spilled through the 12-foot windows, brushing softly against the silk sleeve of my robe as I tied it tighter around my waist. The air smelled faintly of vanilla and jasmine, my new signature diffuser scent, and for a moment, it almost tricked me into thinking my life had always been like this.
Calm.
Spacious. Safe. But my phone shattered that quiet illusion. A vibration. Then another. Then the name I never expected to see again blinking on the screen. Mom. I stared at it, heartbeat steady but heavy, the kind of heaviness that comes from wounds that healed, but left a mark. I hadn't spoken to them in years. Not since the day they told me family comes first, right before treating me like the outsider in my own home. My thumb hovered over the screen. A mix of irony and old hurt rose in my chest, the kind you taste at the back of your throat. Why now? Why today? And what could they possibly want after all this time? I took a slow breath, tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear, and finally answered. The moment I heard my mother's shaky voice on the phone, my mind traveled back, years back, to a night I've tried to forget but never truly escaped. I was 17, still living in our small, creaking, beige-sided house in Ohio. Back then, my world fit inside one modest bedroom, cream walls covered with vision board clippings, a thrifted desk, a string of cheap fairy lights I bought with babysitting money. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Or, at least, it used to be. I remember coming home from my late shift at a local diner, smelling like French fries and dish soap, dreaming about taking a shower and collapsing into my sheets. But when I pushed open the front door, something felt off. Too quiet. Too still. Then I saw it. A pile of my clothes tossed onto the living room floor, like cheap laundry. My sketchbooks stacked messily beside them. My pillow peeking out from under one of my dad's boots. I froze. What is this? My mother didn't look up from folding blankets. Ava, your brother needs a room. He's older, he needs privacy.
You can take the couch for a while.
It's not a big deal. Not a big deal. My dad walked in, beer can in hand. You're barely home anyway. Stop making everything dramatic. The humiliation settled inside me like cement. My cheeks burned. My hands shook so hard I pressed them against my jeans to hide it. It's my room, I whispered. I pay for my own clothes. I study there. I work. We've made our decision, my father snapped. Don't make this harder. I blinked back tears. The room blurred. My throat tightened so much I could barely breathe. That's when my grandmother, Rose Morgan, appeared in the doorway. She was the only soft thing in that entire house. Her gray hair was tied in a pale blue scarf, and her warm brown eyes carried the kind of love that didn't need explaining. She walked up to me, slipped something into my hand, a small, worn silver compass she used to keep on her nightstand. It always points you where you need to go, she whispered. Even when people don't. Her voice trembled, but her hands didn't. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I didn't make them feel what they made me feel. I simply picked up my clothes, my sketchbook, and that compass. And that night, I packed my things in a quiet corner while everyone slept. By sunrise, I was gone, with $83 in my pocket, a suitcase held together by duct tape, and a promise to myself that I would never, ever depend on them again. Leaving home at 17 felt like stepping into a storm without an umbrella. The world suddenly felt too big, too loud, and too indifferent. But I kept touching the cool metal of my grandmother's compass in my pocket, reminding myself I wasn't lost, just starting. I took a Greyhound bus to Chicago, the closest city where dreams didn't feel illegal. The first few months were brutal, honestly. I rented a tiny studio apartment the size of a walk-in closet, where the radiator rattled louder than my thoughts and the windows let in more cold than light. I slept on a thrift store mattress that smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and someone else's past. I worked 2 jobs, diner waitress by morning, inventory girl at a craft store by evening. At night, I taught myself graphic design on a secondhand laptop that overheated every hour. Some nights I cried quietly while practicing typography. Some nights I cried loudly. But every morning I woke up, tied my sneakers, and kept going. My break came in the form of a woman who smelled like peppermint tea and authority. Melissa Grant, owner of one of the city's rising marketing agencies. She came into the craft store one evening, frantic because she needed supplies for a last-minute presentation. I helped her pick out color palettes, guided her through layout ideas, even sketched a mock-up on scrap paper. She looked at that sketch for a long moment, then at me, then back at the sketch. "You did this." "Yes," I said, trying not to sound as tired as I felt. She nodded slowly. "Come to my office tomorrow. I think I have something for you." That night, I didn't sleep. Hope is louder than anxiety, if you let it be. Melissa didn't hand me a job, she handed me a challenge. "Show me what you can do," she said, placing a tablet and stylus in front of me. My hands shook the entire time, but I designed like my future depended on it. Because it did. By the end of the week, she offered me a paid internship. By the end of the year, I was a junior designer. And by 22, I was leading a project pitch for a national brand. The night we won that account, Melissa hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "You have fire in you, Ava. Don't ever dim it for anyone."
I didn't tell her about my past.
I didn't tell anyone. When coworkers asked about my family, I shrugged and said, "We're not very close." On social media, I posted vague updates, a coffee photo here, a blurry sunset there. Nothing that revealed the truth. Let them think I was ordinary. Let them believe I was still that same girl they dismissed. By 25, I had saved enough to buy real estate. By 27, enough to found my own creative agency. By 28, enough to purchase the mansion, the one with the sweeping staircase, the glass balcony, and the master suite bigger than the entire square footage of my childhood home. And still, I told no one, especially not them. My success was the one thing in my life they couldn't touch, poison, or minimize. It was mine, built from pain they never apologized for, built from nights they didn't know I cried, built from strength they never believed I had. And I planned to keep it that way. Until the phone call that morning changed everything. When I finally answered the phone that morning, the first thing I heard was my mother sniffling. "Ava, honey, we need to talk."
Honey.
Funny how suddenly I was honey again. I kept my voice steady. "What's going on?" There was a pause, long enough for my heartbeat to echo in the huge master suite around me. Then she said it. "We're in trouble. We need your help. We need a place to stay." A slow, cold realization crept over me. They weren't calling because they missed me. Not because they regretted anything. Not because they wanted to mend what they broke. They were calling because they needed something. When I didn't respond immediately, she rushed on. "We lost the house. Your father made some bad decisions. We don't have anywhere to go. Your brother, too. We thought maybe you could let us stay with you for a while. Just until we get back on our feet." A deep silence filled the room. I could hear my own breath, calm, controlled, nothing like the trembling girl I used to be. "Where are you?" I asked. "At the gate," she whispered. Of course they were. They hadn't even waited for permission. I ended the call, slipped on a pair of soft beige heels, and walked slowly downstairs. My mansion was quiet, except for the faint echo of my steps against marble. As I approached the front doors, towering, dark oak with gold handles, I saw their silhouettes through the frosted glass. The moment I opened the doors, 3 shocked faces stared back at me. My father's eyes widened as he craned his neck to look past me, taking in the chandelier, the double staircase, the polished floors. My mother covered her mouth, whispering, "Oh my God." My brother looked like he had swallowed his own pride and didn't know how to breathe around it. "This is your place?" he finally asked. A slow, polite smile curved my lips.
Yes.
"Welcome." I stepped aside, letting them enter. They moved like they were stepping into a museum, careful, stunned, overwhelmed. My father reached out to touch the smooth railing of the staircase, running his fingers along the carved detail. You live here? I do. Their eyes traveled to the gallery wall, framed art pieces I collected during design trips and conferences. Then to the glass sculptures in the hallway. Then to the soft beige furniture arranged in elegant symmetry. Everything was feminine, modern, warm, and meticulously curated. Everything I never had growing up. What do you do? My mother whispered, almost afraid of the answer. I own a creative agency. 3, actually. We manage national campaigns and corporate branding. My brother swallowed hard. So, you're like rich? I'm comfortable. Calm women always have the sharpest lines. We walked into my office. Soft lighting, cream-toned shelves, a desk made of walnut, a row of awards lining the back wall. My grandmother's compass sat in a small glass display case behind my desk. My father stared at it. Your grandmother's? Yes, I said. She believed in me before anyone else did. They said nothing.
Because what could they say?
I gestured toward the floor-to-ceiling window that looked out over my private garden. This is where I live now. This is who I am now. Their silence grew heavier by the second.
Guilt.
Regret.
Shame.
All of it settling on their shoulders like unwelcome gravity. And then, finally, I turned to face them fully.
Calm.
Straight-backed. Unshakable. Before we talk about anything else, you need to know exactly what you walked into. I took a slow breath and walked to the center of the room, the soft carpet muting my footsteps. My family stood in front of me like people awaiting a verdict, fidgeting, uneasy, unsure of where they now stood in my world. Ava, my mother began, voice small, we're sorry for everything. Truly. We didn't know, we didn't realize. I raised a hand gently. Let me speak first. They quieted instantly. Funny how the same voice they once dismissed now commanded the room effortlessly. My father cleared his throat, staring at the awards on my wall. We shouldn't have treated you the way we did. You were a kid, and we pushed you out of your own space. It wasn't right. My brother nodded beside him, shifting awkwardly. Yeah, I shouldn't be acted like it was no big deal. I was selfish. Their words should have healed something. But wounds that deep don't close with apologies alone. You didn't just take my room, I said softly. You took away my safety, my place of peace, my sense of belonging. They lowered their heads. But I'm not here to punish you. Their eyes lifted, surprised. I will help you, but not without boundaries. My father frowned. Boundaries? Yes. I folded my arms loosely, my voice steady but warm. If you want to stay here, even temporarily, things will not work the way they did before. I'm not that girl you controlled or dismissed. This is my home, my life, my rules. I turned to my father first. Dad, if you stay here, you stop drinking. His eyes widened. You don't get to yell. You don't get to insult. You don't get to pretend strength is cruelty. You want stability? Earn it with self-control. He swallowed hard, nodding slowly. I'll try. Not try, I corrected gently. Do. Then I looked at my mother. Mom, you stop treating me like I'm the problem every time you're uncomfortable. She blinked fast, already fighting tears. You don't guilt-trip me. You don't minimize what I've built. You don't question my decisions out of fear or jealousy. You learn to communicate, clearly, honestly, respectfully. She wiped her eyes and whispered, I can do that.
I want to do that.
Lastly, I turned to my brother. He rubbed the back of his neck. I know. I was terrible to you. You weren't terrible, I said. Just entitled.
He winced.
You're a grown man now. So, act like one. No freeloading. You help around the house. You apply for jobs. You build something of your own instead of stepping into what's mine. He nodded fast, like someone afraid the offer might disappear. I'll work. I'll pay rent if you want. I'll do whatever. The room fell silent again. Not uncomfortable this time. Just changed. I looked at each of them. 3 people who once took the last bit of space I owned, now relying on me for a roof. This house is my peace, I said. If you stay here, you protect that peace. That's the only condition that matters. My mother touched her chest, breathing out shakily. We'll do better, Ava. We will. For the first time in years, I almost believed her. The first few days with them in the house felt strange. Like walking into a memory that no longer fit. Like trying on a jacket you outgrew years ago, familiar, but tight in all the places life had stretched you. But slowly something unexpected happened. My father stopped coming home smelling like liquor. He woke up early, helped my gardener trim hedges, fix small things around the house without being asked. He didn't shout, didn't slam doors. Sometimes I'd glance out the window and see him sitting quietly by the fountain in the garden, as if reflecting on years he wished he could rewrite. My mother softened, too. She started knocking before entering rooms, a small gesture, but after a lifetime of walking over my boundaries, it meant everything. She helped organize the kitchen pantry, cooked dinner a few nights a week, and for once listened. Really listened. One evening, she even sat on a bar stool in the kitchen while I worked, watching me with a timid smile. You always were talented, she murmured. I just didn't understand how to support you. My brother surprised me the most. He applied for jobs, updated his resume, even asked for my help designing a cleaner layout for it. He apologized more than once, not in dramatic speeches, but in quiet, consistent ways. Picking up groceries, doing laundry, leaving sticky notes on the fridge that said things like, "Thanks for letting us be here. I'm trying to do better." I never expected perfection, just effort. And for the first time in my life, I was getting it. One afternoon, while reorganizing my office shelves, I opened the glass case holding my grandmother's compass. The silver glinted under the soft sunlight, warm and familiar against my palm. I remembered the night she gave it to me, her whisper in my ear, her belief in me when no one else bothered. "It always points you where you need to go," she'd said. Back then, I thought she meant escape. Now, standing in the home I built with my own two hands, surrounded by people who were finally learning to respect me, I understood she meant something deeper. The compass wasn't about direction. It was about returning to myself, finding my voice, owning my worth, and I had. Completely. As I placed the compass back into its case and shut the glass door, a calm strength settled over me, not loud, not vengeful, just solid. My family hadn't changed me. Life hadn't broken me. Pain hadn't stopped me. I had become the woman I needed, the woman I chose, the woman my younger self deserved. And in the softest voice, the kind meant for a final line in a voiceover, I said to myself, "They once took my room, but they could never take my destiny.